right? And then, you know, there's a wide variety of us here, right? We're going to get to all that. Paul and Vanessa are going to do an amazing job. So, real quickly, we have an amazing panel here. For the sake of time, we're not going to go through and they can introduce themselves as they answer kind of the questions. But I want to jump into the topics. And I was thinking to myself, Boyd, we're going to have you go first. So, yes. So we have Boyd Truman, right? Double presidential diamond, Boyd and Sandy. You guys have, but you still have more kids than you. No. You have more doTERRA legs than you do have kids at this point.
We do.
Yeah. Okay. How many kids do you guys have?
We have 8.
8 kids as well. So 8 kids is not a requirement. No. Just so you guys know.
They are good advertisement, though.
Okay. Yes. So it would seem, as a double presidential diamond, right? That to me is just incredible. It would seem that, Boyd, you have like this magic wand, and whenever you want to find a new builder, or whenever you want to start a new leg, you just kind of like wave the wand and hit somebody with it, right? And they become a builder. They become awesome. How many of you guys would like to know maybe how Boyd and Sandy approach finding a new builder, what they say, what that process looks like? Would you guys like to know that? Okay? I don't know if Boyd's ever even shared this with anyone before, so we're getting it here, so pay attention. Boyd, what does that look like for you and Sandy?
Well, the answer is probably going to be more boring than any of you ever thought. But here's something that I've said for 8 or 9 years, especially to my team, that doTERRA, this is who we are, this is what we do, and it's not going away. Now let me talk about why I say it in that manner. doTERRA is who we are. It is. It's about being doTERRA. It's about living and being the lifestyle of a doTERRAist, or doTERRA, whatever. But it's about being in that space. Notice that I said it's what we do. That comes second. Sandy and I don't get caught up in a lot of the action plans. That's just not us. That's just not me. It is, you know, there's been a lot of talk about vision. I'm big on vision and putting it out there and just dialing in and going for it. But again, the doing becomes secondary. It's not about a specific system. There's many different systems, and what's going to introduce today is going to be common language, which is going to help all of us. But more than anything, it's when you have that huge vision and you know exactly where you're going with that, you don't waste a lot of time on the action. It becomes a little more effortless. You enjoy it because you've already decided what you're doing. Sometimes you want to know how to get there. Well, how is not as much important as why you're choosing to do what you do. So yes, doTERRA, it's who we are. It's being that person. It's being and living in that lifestyle. It's what we do. And that, again, is secondary. And the third, it's not going away. How many of you know direct selling people? Maybe you were one of these people that would start a new direct selling company every 6 months, and you'd go to your neighbors, and here they go, oh, here they come again. Just tell them no, they'll go away. Then they're going to hit us up 6 months later for another one. This is the difference with doTERRA. Hopefully, most of you don't leave doTERRA. You want to stay the course, be as consistent as possible. It's not about coming in and hitting it hard and going out. So our approach, again, is very mild and organic to just living the lifestyle of a doTERRAian. And mostly, we don't actually go and look or searching for new leaders. They generally come to me and Sandy because you guys are different. We see that your children are different. What is that bottle of oil you carry in your hand? What did you just get out at lunchtime and dump in your water? It's them coming to us. So again, that's not really any secret sauce. That's just kind of.
Well, you guys, it has so much more to do with who you are and that level of belief than it is what you say.
Correct.
Right.
We don't want to try and upsell people. We don't want to act too hyperactive. We don't want to be salesy. That's not our approach. It's just being doTERRA.
Right. I love it. Thank you very much, boys. So again, the title of this panel is "What is your secret sauce?" Right? And being able to pull that out. But I also want you to notice how different the participants are in this panel. Okay? Very, very different personalities, very different ways of building this business. And one of the purposes of today that has been repeated over and over is that you can be you and you can succeed doing this. In fact, the more that you surrender to being you, the more success that you will have. And the more unique and the more the people you'll call forward. So, to prove the point of how different the people are up on this stage, we have amazing presidential diamond and in Australia, Jessie Reimers. How you doing, Jessie? Apologize. So,
I forgive you.
Okay. Jessie is the youngest one here on stage, right? How old are you, Jessie?
26.
26 years old. Last year you were on this stage telling your story, right? And what rank were you last year?
Blue Diamond. Blue
Diamond. Okay, so Presidential Diamond this year, and I think, you know, one of the questions that came to my mind was, as you built doTERRA, especially in the beginning, from like elite to gold, how many people are here in between the ranks of elite to gold? Okay? So from elite to gold, what skills, prospecting, inviting, following up, finding builders, did you really struggle with? And how did you decide to become self-aware and improve them?
I was rubbish at pretty much everything, so I'd never been to a class. And we didn't have class in a box, or we call it Empower Kit in Australia, so I created a 2-hour PowerPoint presentation, and I talked about, I have autism, so I memorized like the Modern Essentials book and talked about sesquiterpenes crossing the blood-brain barrier and chemical constituents and all this extremely boring rubbish. And yeah, there's Meg in the front row. She was one of the people that came to one of my classes. She was the only one at that class, as was per normal. Most of my classes either no people or maybe 1 or 2 people. And she was bored to absolute tears for 2 hours and wanted to leave, but she didn't leave because she was the only person there and she thought that might be rude. So she said that she had very sore legs from going to the gym, you know, leg day, so she was kind of hobbling in. And she said, you know, do you have anything for that? And I was like, yeah, we do. Super excited. We have ice glue. So we put some ice glue rub on one of her legs, and about 10 minutes later she said, can I have some for the other leg? This is kind of an uneven situation now. And she signed up with the Home Essentials kit. So my big philosophy is taking action even when you have no idea what you're doing, because a lot of people, think, oh, I can't get started because I haven't memorized the Modern Essentials book, and I'm not Dr. Hill, and I'm not, you know, Vanessa Jean, and I haven't learned about essential oils for the last 20 years. I'd never used essential oils before. I thought they were smelly hippie rubbish. So just saying, I love hippies, but yeah, it wasn't really my thing. And I don't like smells because I'm autistic and smells overwhelm me. But when I had the experience of the oils, and they help my gut health, and they help my anxiety, and they help my kids, that was why I got involved. And the woman that shared them with me said, Jessie, you know, there's an opportunity involved in this. And I was on welfare, so I was like, I'm just going to share my experiences. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never even been a supervisor at McDonald's. Like, I'm not a leader, but let's give it a red hot crack and let's get it done.
So pretty much you and Boyd are like identical, kind of, right? Pretty much. So how did you become, you know, one of the things I had mentioned, and I love how authentic Jessie is. Jessie herself? Yeah. How many people hear Jessie and feel inspired to be themselves? That's really powerful. How did you become self-aware or humble enough to want to improve this? Because there's a lot of people, all of us, reach this place where we're just kind of banging our head against the wall, and like we're not asking for help, we're getting the same results. How did you become aware, like, hey, you know what? Was there a point where, like, you said, I got to figure this out, or quit, or I got to get better, or recognize my weaknesses? What happened?
I think that everything we need to succeed is already within every single one of us, in every single one of you. And the sooner we realize that, the better. We don't need we don't need an upline that's an amazing builder and super successful and mentoring us every single day to be successful. We don't need, you know, all these other external things. So I use tapping and EFT, which is an amazing tool for me. I work with Brad Yates with that. I use the essential oils to help me. But I just know that I am my bad self, and people are either going to love or hate that, and there's plenty that do. But some people will be attracted to that, and I share my vulnerabilities, and I'm real and authentic with people, and I think that people appreciate that it's not like all the perfect, shiny, happy life, and I share when I'm struggling, and I share when I'm having a low day, and I share when I don't feel like a good enough leader, and when I'm comparing myself to amazing people. Like, I probably compare myself more now at Presidential with surrounded by these legends than I did at Elite or Silver. But I just come back to knowing that if I don't share, then I'm not making an impact, so that makes me selfish. Whereas if I do share, even if it impacts one person, that ripple effect is immense. So you've just got to get over yourself and get it done. Do the inner work, do the personal development, and change lives.
That last line was gold. Really, right? So when we're not asking for help and improving, we're only hurting the impact that we make. I really, really like that. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Carl.
Yes, you bet. So we have Jessica Iddings next to us. Jessica and her amazing husband, Clay. And they have 2 boys, right? And Jessica's Presidential Diamond today. But it obviously wasn't always that way. In fact, one of Jessica's sons is type 1 diabetes. And so, type 1 diabetic. And so there's been a lot of challenges. And the question that I had for Jessica was, there comes a time in all of our businesses, like a really critical time, where we have to decide to step up, or we have to decide to do something. Maybe it's scary, we don't think we can do it. So Jessica, what time was that for you before Diamond? What time was that? And what did you do, and why did you decide to do it?
Oh, this is a good question. So there's a few things that really come to my mind, and number one is we always have to have a focus of like a perspective of what we really want. What does it look like for us? And something that gets us up in the morning and excites us, because if it doesn't excite us, we're not going to move towards it. And so for me, it was always keeping in the front of my mind what I wanted to see. And I always hear people say, this is just so hard. Oh my gosh, this is so hard. And I'm like, why do I feel like this isn't hard? And then what I realized is, it's not that it wasn't hard, but our definition of hard was different. Because what was hard for me was watching my kids go to bed every night crying for their dad because he worked nights. What was hard is getting into the bed without my husband beside me and just missing him. And watching his body completely just go into all this different shock from staying up all night. Our bodies aren't designed to do those things. That was hard. It wasn't hard to teach classes. It wasn't hard to share these oils because I loved the impact that it was making on people. And so I always just kept what I wanted in the front of my mind, and I just kept moving towards it. And all of us have the ability to do that, but a lot of times what I notice is all the reasons that we make excuses not to do it are the very reasons we should be doing it. And so I just really stayed focused on that, and I had no-shows all the time. You drive 3 hours, awesome, nobody showed up for a class. And I could either choose to let it completely just put me down and be like, oh, you know, poor me, no one wanted to listen, or I could be like, all right, well, had some good drive time, listen to some good music, and maybe next time they'll show up, you know? And I just kept doing that. And then the other piece of it is, nobody knows what's gonna happen to your life in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years, right? And so I want you guys to think for just a moment, what if in 6 months, a year, 18 months, something in your life dramatically changed where you needed this? Because that's what happened to us. I didn't know that 2 years ago my son was going to be diagnosed as a diabetic. I had no idea. That was never something we even envisioned. But what I know is by me staying the course, not getting frustrated, that day, when the scariest day of our life, when we are in the emergency room with our son, having no clue, I didn't even know what type 1 was, honestly. I just remember thinking, thank you, Lord, that we have these oils and that I don't have to call a boss and say, I don't know when I'll be back to work. My husband was sitting beside me, and we took this journey on together to be completely just togetherness in that journey of learning about a new diagnosis for our child. And so think about it, you guys. What if in 1 year something happened to one of your family members who you love? Wouldn't you want to be by their side the entire time? And I think all of you are going to say yes. I hope so. So if that's the case, do the hard stuff now. Because really what's hard isn't that hard. You know what would have been hard? Is sitting home, learning how to give my son shots without my husband. Oh my gosh, that like kills me to think about, because I see moms doing it and they're destroyed inside. And we are able to look at life differently and be like, you know what, we're not victims. We're going to change this world still. And I truly believe that we are going to somehow change the diabetes community. Like, that is my goal. And so, it's a big one, but I'm not scared of it because I know we have it. And so my thing is, you guys, look at hard differently. Think about what hard could be. And it could be, maybe you're in it right now. Maybe what you're doing right now is hard. So what we do is not hard. Just change the way you look at it and know that honestly, it's just getting up and doing the same actions and putting your heart into it and make it excite you every single day.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much, Jessica. All right. Tony, you ready for this?
I'm always ready.
Okay, hey, shout out to the skeptical husbands. Okay? Why don't you guys, you can raise your hand. I was going to say, why don't you just blink so that we know, we can see where you guys are at. Okay? I was once skeptical husband. I know Tony, the same. What did you do before, Tony? Before doTERRA? I know it's hard to remember, but what did you do before?
I was a corporate vice president for 19 years and played in a little band in Nashville.
Okay. Okay, very cool. So, the question that I have for you is, all of us have moments where we want to quit, right? Where we're struggling, we're frustrated. It's okay. Anybody have had one of those moments in the last week? Right? Yeah. How many of us were like, I gotta get to convention because I need my batteries recharged? Right? Totally. And so, Tony, I want to ask you, hopefully, and you can answer this not just for yourself, but I have a feeling that your answer will also answer this for a lot of others. What do you feel like the #1 problem or challenge, I guess we'll use the word challenge, is that your team is facing right now? You look at your team and what's going on, and you look at what this challenge is, and what are you doing to solve it? And what do you feel like some of the solutions are?
Well, that's a simple question, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. This one's really easy.
You know, first I want to address here, have you had a day you want to quit there? And I've never had a day that I want to quit because I know what my purpose is. Now, I've had days that were difficult, that were challenging. I've had a couple days, you know, remember when you were learning to ride a bike, guys, and you went off a jump and you landed on that bar in the middle? I've had a couple days that felt like that. The day that we walked away from a qualifying leg with $50,000 in volume because it was poison, you know, that was tough. The day that the Leadership magazine came and we saw that our picture wasn't where it used to be in the ranks and we dropped down. That was a kick in the goods, you know, so you've got a choice there to let that stop you where you're at, or to let it motivate you and to realize that whatever. So, biggest problem. Well, I'm not quite Truman.
Challenge, right? There's no problems, just challenges, just opportunities.
My sensei, boy, biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenge is we've got goals. We've got huge goals. And to achieve our goals, we need 6 business partners to achieve their goals. And for them to achieve their goals, they need 18 business partners to achieve theirs. And those 18 people need 54 other people to hit elite. And all this has to happen at the same time, every month. And I think the challenge, yeah. So it's not just me. Okay. This is one of those recurring dreams I have, like when you're at school naked. It's the same type of dream. Which actually doesn't bother me anymore. But I think the challenge and the frustration there comes when our partners and our leaders, when their urgency and their level of commitment doesn't match ours. And it feels like we're running towards our goal, and I keep turning around and realizing that at any given time there's 2 or 3 of them in a wagon that I'm pulling. And the frustration comes because we want all of them to be running alongside with us at the same time, going where we want to go.
I love how you articulated that. I think that that is something that, and that's why I asked you the question, because I knew you were going to find a way to work the word naked into your answer. You always do. So, but the way you,
Only 3 references to body parts in that poster.
Yeah. That was corporate pulled me aside. They're like, hey, listen, everyone else on the panel, we know, that with Tony, like, just kind of make sure you like let him know, like, hey, steer it straight. So that was great.
This is me, Ting.
Okay, yeah. So we're going to keep going. Let's segue to the next person. We have the beautiful, wonderful, talented Dr. Marisa Snyder here on stage. Dr. Marisa. And so how many health professionals do we have here? Nurses, yoga teachers, health coaches, chiropractors, MDs. There is a lot of them in here. It's amazing. So I know, so we have, so you're a chiropractor, and I know so many chiropractors that I would love to just see really engage in doTERRA. So, and maybe many of you are thinking this question, right? You know a health professional that you'd really like to engage in doTERRA. So what was it that first caught your interest, right? And that's just the first part of the question. So, first caught your interest, and you started using it, but then something changed where you're like, wait a minute, I want to do this as a business, actually even more so than maybe my practice, or find a way to combine the two to get to where you're at right now, right? So what interested you in the beginning, and then what kicked it up a notch?
Great question. Thanks for asking, Kyle.
Yeah.
So before I started with doTERRA, I already knew that I wanted to be a part of the change that I wanted to see in the world. I wanted to create an impact. And as I'm looking out at every single one of you, I know that you're here because you want to create that impact. How many of you are looking to create an impact in the world? Change people's lives one oil at a time. That is so incredible. Give yourselves a pat on the back for being here and showing up. So I wanted to be a part of that change, and I was looking for the opportunity. I wanted to be able to touch people's lives in a simple way that was profound and that they could do in their own homes. I wanted to find natural solutions that could make powerful, amazing transformations. Because I think ultimately that's what so many of us are looking for. We're looking for the transformation. I know that you were looking for the transformation for your family when your son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so many of us have family members where we're looking for that reinvention of healthcare. So when I was in practice, I was looking for that. And what I began to realize when I was in practice is that although I love to serve my patients and I serve them every single day, I wasn't able to touch as many people as I wanted. There were only so many hours in the day. There was only so much of me. There were only so many people I could serve. And so when essential oils were introduced to me, I had an incredible breakthrough. I had an incredible miracle moment. The oils were what I was looking for. I recognized that the simplicity of them and how their capability of making changes in people's lives were beyond anything that I had seen. And not only am I a chiropractor, I'm a functional practitioner, I'm a hormone expert, and I'm a nutrition expert. And before oils, it was all about nutrition because I felt like that was the foundation. But when oils came into my life, that was the trigger point. That was the thing that I knew was going to make a change for millions of people around the world. And thanks to all of us, there are well over 5 million people using these oils around the world. So that was the point where I decided that this is the direction I wanted to go. But when it came to the business, you know, I have a really great mentor, and you had an opportunity to hear her speak today. Her name is Laura Jacobs. And Laura Jacobs had a vision that she wanted to see oils in 1 million homes. I wanted to take on that vision. I wanted to take on that why. And so I knew that the way that I was going to do that is by building doTERRA, by finding other incredible influencers who understood my why, who wanted to transform lives, who wanted to bring their own secret sauce to the table. So I got really clear with my why and my vision, and I began sharing that with people who I felt were aligned with what I wanted to create in the world. And that is how we began to grow. So why I started doTERRA as a business, Not only did I want the financial freedom and really the time freedom to create and change lives, but I wanted to be able to inspire other people to want to do the same. So I am blessed to continue to share that message. And I hope that each of you gets so clear on what drives you, what fuels you, what sets you on fire and gets your passion going, so that you can share that with other practitioners, other influencers, as you already are doing, so that you can continue to build a business that changes lives every single day.
Wow. That was amazing. I hope that you guys are picking up. Something that I picked up just listening to all of you is that people, influential people, or people that really want big things are attracted to people who have big visions, right? And people who talk about those big visions. So the question might be for you is, how often do you talk about, well, first of all, do you know what your vision is for yourself, for your family? And how often do you talk about that, right? And you repeat that, whether it's on social media, whether it's in person and one-on-ones, whatever it might be, that's what people are attracted to. And I'm telling you, the more you work on yourself, like you heard, work on yourself, work on your vision, get clear about what that is, and repeat that, and share that, and be patient. And you'll see incredible people are attracted to you. So, to bring this thing home, we have Presidential Diamond Heather Matter here on stage, and I'm not going to get this perfectly right, and I also forgot to make sure that we recognize the McClellan's Blue Diamonds, also on Tony. I know it's always important to make sure everyone has the recognition they've worked so hard for. And so, Heather, tell us a little bit about your expertise first, you know, before we get to the question, but let me remember this here. So, you are an extremely talented healer and coach, right?
Thank you.
Yes. And many of us who know you know that. You've helped my wife out a tremendous amount. And, but have you ever felt kind of stalled out? You know, even with all the skills that you have, you felt stalled out, maybe you felt frustrated, or maybe you couldn't find leaders. Maybe anyone in here feel like they just can't find leaders that will really help them in their business, or they have people that quit. How did you use what you coach people on to actually overcome those obstacles?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it, because I was thinking as I was coming here, the first year I went into business, my husband, he was doing my taxes, and I thought I was making money, and I knew so little about business that I didn't realize I had only made $50 in the whole year. Oh. And then, this wasn't doTERRA, by the way, just so you know. The second year, same thing, $50. And then the third year, I made $50 a month. And then the fourth year, $50 a month. And then I was like, I think something's wrong with me. And has anyone ever wondered that? Like, am I not doing this right? Is there something wrong with me? Well, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but there is. Just kidding. And here's what it is. No. So I had tons of unresolved concerns from earlier on in my life. Things that taught me I might not be good enough. It's really, really hard to make money. I don't have a right to just stand up and go talk about what I want and do what I want. And because we're complex beings, because we're truly spiritual beings and physical beings, we are creating our lives from the inside out all the time. And so whatever you haven't resolved, any unresolved concerns or issues you have with yourself, you're actually manifesting these into your business all the time, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not. And so that was, for 5 years, literally made like $50 a month. Not 5 weeks, not 5 months, like for 5 years. That's a really long time. And so I had to get really, really honest. And that's the first thing. Tell the truth about your condition. Like, really, truly, how is it really, truly for you when you're with yourself and by yourself, and how do you really feel? And there's a lot of us that feel like we don't deserve to make a lot of money, or many of you are still struggling maybe with loyalty issues. Many of you maybe had your boundaries weren't protected when you were earlier in your life, and now you have builders and they run all over you. And so that's really the truth of it, is that we're always experiencing our light and our broken places all at the same time. And so in our businesses, to really get a thriving business, and I bet all of the people on this amazing panel, you can hear their stories and where they started. They did a lot of work on what they believe. And we carry these in our subconscious, we carry them in our energy systems, in our family history. And that's the work, that's the question you asked me is, what did I do? I went, after 5 years, come on, it's like wake up call time. And I really, I hired a mentor, and to this day, still work with mentors. It's 10 years later. Every single week, I always have a mentor, somebody that is just taking me to the next level. I'm always constantly working on myself.
Yeah. There has been thank you so much, Heather. There's been so much value up here on the stage. Really take ownership of where you're at. Apply the things that have been talked about. I remember hearing very early on at an event that I went to, the story about two people that were sitting way in the back of a room. And one guy whispered to the other as they were doing a bunch of recognition on stage, you know, the most successful people. And the one guy turned to the other and he said, man, I wish my leaders were like that. I wish, how come my people can't be like that? And the other guy turned to him and said, they weren't always like that, right? And so if you guys have received value, I want you to stand up and I want you to clap for these amazing people. Thank you, guys. And now that you are standing, I want you guys, with all the energy that you have left, to please welcome